Hey guys, my name's Andrea Rispoli. I go by the name Birdayy on Stars, and I've been playing a fair amount of 50 Zoom lately, with fairly good results. I am currently playing 100 NL, both regular and Zoom this month. It's always good to look at positional stats if you have a big enough sample in regards to 3-betting, 4-betting, stuff like that. Kind of awkward spot. I don't really want to have a cold call range here, even against 2 fish, likely fish. So I think I'm just going to fold. Kind of nitty. I'm just going to isolate with the king-queen off. We'll watch what happens. And I'm just going to bet flop with our gut shot. This is a pretty good hand to go bet jam with versus a reg, but I don't think we have much fold equity against the fish, so I'm just going to check and try and realize our equity. Queen's an interesting card. So we don't block any clubs, which is good for us. He may be making a bet with a hand with weird relative hand strength. Like he could be betting like Queen Jack for value, something stupid like that. I'm going to call. Yeah, it's fine. It's another point that's pretty good. We do block King Jack, which is a hand that will bet river. I'm not convinced with that call. I think with 3 likely weaker players behind, I'm just going to call Ace-King. And Ace-Queen, just going to fold. So I think there's still value in the river with Ace-King. So I'm going to bet close to half pot. And I'm going to value bet table 1. As we turn second pair. He raises pretty large. I don't think there's much we can do with our hand. Pretty easy ISO with Ace-Queen suited against the weaker player. And same goes for table 3. Yeah, gonna call Queen Jack. So he calls. I'm just gonna half pot, flop, check turn if he calls, and likely bet river. Possibly check. So he bets. I actually think I'm going to fold this run out. Kind of gross though. Just going to defend with jacks. He's been very tight 3-betting over a small sample. So I'm going to have to be pretty careful post-flop here. I think versus that sizing we should call flop, reevaluate turn. It's actually a turn that I'm interestingly going to fold. I don't expect him to be barreling often as a bluff. And if we look at his C-bet stats, he only C-bets 29% on the turn, which is conducive for value. So, might look a little bit tight, but I'm going to fold. Nines I am going to 3-bet versus cut off open. I generally don't like having too much of a flooding range there. Versus MP it can be okay. And I'm just going to check ace queen on this flop. Again, you want to look for hands that will have good barreling equity. And ace queen doesn't really have it on a 2-club board, such as that. Ten jack, fold for me. Ace 3 doesn't play very well multi-way, so I'm just going to fold. Gonna 3-bet ace jack. As I mentioned earlier, I don't really like having too much of a flooding range here. So he calls. Pretty nice flop for us. I'm going to bet fairly large because we're a little bit deeper. I expect him to peel with like quite a lot of hands here. Quite a few draws on this board with lots of broadways. So that's an interesting card. I really don't think we can get 3 streets of value here. So I am going to be checking. And if he checks back, I'll be value betting river. Standard raises. This guy's been very tight. However, our hand flopped very well and we are getting pretty good odds, so I'm going to peel. Interesting flop. I don't really think we have enough equity to call versus C-bet, given it is being all spades. So I'm just going to fold. Ace 6. Just going to start off with a check. Likely just going to check it down. The thing with these, the passive guys, they generally let you get to showdown a lot easier. So you don't have to worry about betting some hands that you normally would against regulars. Just easy ISO with the ace 10 and I don't really think there's much value in betting turn. I'm just going to check call with the deuce 5 off and again just going to check it down. Sometimes we win. Going to 3-bet to isolate with the ace 5 suited. Versus the weaker player. Don't have to go big because of his stack size. Flop pretty well table 1. So he leads turn, which is kind of interesting. Just going to call. Definitely going to value bet river once he checks. And I think we have a pretty easy check down with the ace-5. I don't really think we need to turn it into a bluff. Sorry about that, guys. Just had a bit of background issues I had to sort out. If you didn't see the end to that 6-9 hand, I called turn and then I bet the river for value and he folded. I think Queen Jack can either be a raise or an overlimp here. I'm going to overlimp in this scenario. So he min bets. I think raise or calling is okay here. Our hand plays pretty well multi-way in terms of we want more people in the pot when we hit. So I'm just going to call. Again, we're just getting too good a price to fold our draw. So we get 3-bet by a very tight player. Just going to go ahead and 4-bet call. Going to keep barreling with our draw on table 3. I expect to have a little bit of fold equity on this card when he doesn't have a straight. So yeah, that Queen Jack hand I think is a pretty clear fold on the river when it comes up. Pretty standard pre-flop decisions. King 4, I think opening or folding is fine. I don't really expect to get 3 streets here. So I'm going to check back flop and then bet twice. That's not a very good turn for us, but I'm still going to at least bet turn to side river. The reasoning why it's not a good turn, it is for our range, it's just not for our hand. If you think about, we're going to be checking back a lot of 9x on the flop. So when we bet the turn, we're going to be very strong usually. When he raises into that range, I am going to fold because relative hand strength wise, this isn't very far up in our range. We're going to have a lot of trips that we can defend that raise with. Nine's not a very good turn to be barreling. A lot of his check call range. It's going to be top pair heavy. Again, I usually barrel turns where I pick up equity. When you have 8 high, you're pretty much drawing dead against a calling range. So it's kind of tilting. You can just make a note that he floats Queen Jack. And we can adapt accordingly. So we get a limp. Just going to raise with my ace-x. I think it's strong enough. He calls. I think it's a pretty easy check back on the flop. And Queen Jack. This guy's actually pretty tight. Small blind versus buttons over 9%. So versus most guys, I would defend here, but versus this guy, I'm going to fold. And just going to check down table 2. When he bets, it's kind of gross. Just gonna fold. Again, just betting with my backdoors on table 1. Unfortunately, we don't pick up equity again, so I'm just gonna check. Defend Jack 9 suited versus an MP open. That's actually not the worst card for us. We're perceived to bet quite a few King X on the flop as bluffs with backdoors, like King Jack of clubs, stuff like that. So that would likely bet turn. So I'm going to bet half pot. I don't expect him to fold many 10x, but if he does have like 8, 7, stuff like that, he will be folding. And going to call Jack 9. And we're perceived to have quite a lot of 8x here. And we're at the complete bottom of our range, so I think we should be betting river. Gonna check back ace jack. Call turn if he bets. There's an unknown, just gonna fold jack 8. I don't really see value in betting. I think our hand is too strong to turn into a bluff. The problem with calling river if he bets is I expect any semi-bluffs to bet the turn. Fortunately he doesn't bet, we can just take our hand to showdown. Interesting that he didn't bet that hand at some point. I would have expected him to bet turn, but it's good for us. Shows he's a bit passive. So you can see, like, we've only been playing for say 50 minutes or so, but we're already like 250 big blinds deep on one table. There's a lot of value to knowing how to play deep in Zoom. A lot of people just have no idea what they're doing. Funnily enough, when stacks get over 200 big blinds, they don't know how to pot control and stuff. So I'd recommend maybe playing a few deep ante tables. Just going to check call queen 9 and call king queen. And I'm going to fold 8-7. So he checks. I think we have a pretty clear value bet on the flop. Likely going 3 streets. He has all ace-king, ace-queen combos in his check-call range. And we do have quite a few perceived bluffs in our range. So sizing, that's a horrible card for us. Yeah, as I said. Sizing table 3. Just going to bet around 2/3 pot. Call or raise. So that's a hand I expected for him to have in his range. Obviously we played it fine, but there's not much you can do when the ace rolls off. I think turning this hand into a bluff is pretty suicidal. It's just way too strong, so. I think 3-betting to isolate with King Jack is fine versus the weaker player. This is not really a hand you want to be calling in these positions, because you just get squeezed out so easily. I'm actually going to bet turn again, just to get him to fold all of his like 8s and unders. And we do have 2 overs and a gut shot, which is good for us. We don't have to go big here. I expect to have a fair bit of fold equity on that card. Even some random ace highs he peels, he'll fold to a bet, so that's good for us. So this guy raises 3x. This is where positional stats come in handy a fair bit. So if you were playing a regular who raises like 60-70% of buttons, you probably shouldn't be folding this hand. But if we look at his raise first in, he actually only raises 29% on the button, which is very tight, so we can actually fold. Interesting that he leads here. Generally, leads are going to be quite strong versus a UTG range, so I'm going to fold my hand. I'm a bit suspicious of it. Pretty easy 3-bet. get it in with queens in these positions. Gonna call with ace-10. Plays pretty well multi-way, and we basically always have the fish coming along. C calls. Interesting flop. Definitely going to start off with a bet. He definitely does have jacks in his range, which is a concern. So I'm likely going to be checking turn. And probably folding river if he bets. When he checks, I think his range is going to be very heavily weighted towards stuff like tens and weak jack X. So I think we can bet half pot for value and expect to get looked up fairly often. So 6-7, he did make it a very man-sized 3-bet, but it just plays too well to fold. So he had ace-jack, which is a hand that I expected him to have when he checks river. We just flopped nothing table 3, so I'm just going to fold. We'll definitely a board that favours his range. He has all ace-king, ace-queen combos. We pretty much don't. Maybe some ace-queen. Guys are regular. Going to 3-bet to isolate the weaker player. I think heads up I would start barreling ace-3, but 3-way I just don't think we have enough equity, fold equity rather. And just going to try and get my ace-queen to showdown here. He bets half pot. Interestingly, when I've started playing, I've found that UK guys are generally a lot tighter. So I'm going to make a nitty fold on the turn. Because I don't really want to call turn, fold river. Yeah, going to start off with a bet table 2. It's one we're going to be perceived to be betting a lot with our range. And when the 10 pairs, I don't think we should be betting that often, because he does have a lot of 10x. It favours his range. So I'll definitely check turn, and if he checks back, I will bet river. As far as sizing goes, I think something around the $10 mark is fine. Again, I'd probably be checking that turn with my entire range. So he's thinking about it and decides to fold. Unfortunately, the bet check bet lines are usually value. In that instance, we did have it. But it's just a board turn you really don't want to be betting that often. Triple barreling ace-king there I think would be a little bit too thin. Again, just going to 3-bet. 3-bet to isolating is pretty powerful. Most of your money is going to come from the mistakes the fish make. I think with a worse kicker than the king, I would be c-betting here. The king's a pretty good card to have. I think we can bet river for value with our 2-pair. I'm just going to call it a 10-8 in the limp pot. Versus regulars, I've noticed some guys like having a leading range here. But versus fish, I'm just going to check raise. And table 3, just going to bet for value. Probably half pot fold river, if cold. It's an interesting river. I don't think we can go too big here, so I'm just exploitatively going to go very small. I don't expect any ace-x to fold. But But if he decides to like side-call king-queen, he probably won't do it to a large sizing. We're a little bit deeper here. I think 8-jack suited plays okay as a pill. And A7 is a pretty good hand to cold for. Decent blockers, stuff like that. So I definitely don't want to be betting flop with this hand. It's one of my weakest ace-x in my range. See, snap calls turn, and we're pretty much at the bottom of our range, so I'm going to bet river. Get snapped by ace high, which is nice. And I'm going to bet river for value with the a7. So it's a hand that theoretically should be folding. It's a really nice hand to bet because we don't block either flush draw. Stuff that would like, check back, flop, cold turn, like ace queen of hearts, and then fold river. Unfortunately, he didn't believe us, so that's fine. But I'm fine with my play there. We couldn't really ask for a worst run out on table 1, so I'm just going to fold the queens. And this guy min 3-bet, basically. And then check to us. I'm just going to check back. For some reason, when they min 3-bet, they usually end up check raising. It's kind of weird. We don't really need to protect from much. I'm just going to check. Probably bet river, or call a bet if he bets. Actually, I don't really think we're going to get that much value from where, so I'm just going to check. So I'm going to start sitting out the tables. I'd appreciate any feedback you guys have. If you could just post it under the video. This is the first video that I've made for a training site, so I might be a little bit iffy in some spots, but hopefully it wasn't too horrific and you guys learnt a little bit. We'll just play out these last few hands and I'll start. Also, if 3 tables was a good pace, let me know. I could do 2 or 4 depending on how you guys thought I handled it. Just going to call ace queen versus a tighter recreational player. Pretty decent flop for us. Going to start off with a call. Doesn't really make sense to raise this hand in this texture. It's a pretty good turn for us. Just going to be calling. Pretty much just calling down. This is concerning. But he has an extremely high post-flop aggression factor with 8, so I can't see us folding our hand. Interesting. Alright, on that note, I'll end it. Alright, cheers guys.